Hello everyone. So I hope you are all doing well. So let's do one more round of Satsang. Ya kundendu tushar har dhavla, ya chubra vastravrita, ya veena vardand mandit kara, ya shvet padmasana, या ब्रह्माच्युत शंकर प्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा वंदिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेष जांज्ञापहा. All right. So today, we'll talk about something which I actually practice, and I'm just sharing it. So this is more like a spiritual dashboard, something that I monitor on a daily basis just to monitor my own situation in my spiritual life. So basically, it's quite simple actually. So I monitor 5 things on daily basis, and I'll tell you upfront what those 5 things are, and then I'll just flush it out a little bit quickly, like why I think those 5 things are important for me, may not be for you. And the way I kind of reached on these 5 factors, it's based on basically my own struggles in my spiritual life. As I have gone through my own ups and downs in my spiritual life, and then I have tried to look back and try to understand and try to find signals which could have indicated to me in advance that probably I need to be more alert. So that's how I arrived at these 5 things that I monitor. All right. So what are those 5 things that I monitor on a daily basis? So first is when I wake up. So my wake up time. So in general, it's my wake up time, and also attached to that is how much I sleep. So that's one. Second is how much I speak in general over a 24-hour day. How much I speak. Third is, how much I let my mind run around. Fourth is, how my interaction is with other people in general. In general, am I interacting with people nicely, or I am snapping at them, just not being polite, not being nice? I mean, there could be difficult situations, right? Conflicts where we do have to deal with it. But in general, in my general interaction with people, am I being nice to them? Nice and polite. And that was fourth. And fifth is, how many comments, or if any, I do on internet. It could be YouTube, it could be a Wall Street Journal article, anything, anywhere where I'm voicing my opinion on internet. So I really monitor that. So those were the 5 things that I monitor very closely on daily basis. My wake up time and amount of sleep, how much I speak, how much I let my mind run around. For my interaction, am I being a jerk in general, like a mean person, where I have an option to be not so mean, not so snappy. And fifth is like how much or how many comments I make on the internet. All right. And I am very serious about these things, like in my personal spiritual life. I really monitor them, and they work for me. So now I'm going to flush them out very briefly. So first is wake up time and amount of sleep. So wake up time is really important. The getting up at least 2 hours before sunrise is very, very, it cannot be emphasized enough. It's really, really, really important, not for a spiritual life, but in general life. In life, if you want to have a good, happy life, getting up before sunrise is really very helpful. But in spiritual life, it's a necessity. It's a necessity. So what happens is, if we have a very sattvic, subtle body, where we don't have that much impurity in our system, we will wake up naturally, many hours before sunrise. So you will see, great saints or avatars like Sri Ramakrishna, he would rarely sleep, maybe for just half an hour or 1 hour at night. Naturally would wake up maybe around 3 a.m. because there is very little tamas, very little tamasic, impurity in his system. So he naturally wakes up. There is another reason why for us normal people we need to wake up very early is, in the 5th muhurt before sunrise, it's called Amrit Muhurt. Our subtle body is supplied with the fresh daily dose of what we call Amrit, Bindu, ambrosia. And that is the real source of our life and our mind and how alert we are, how much we achieve in life. And that is supplied to the subtle body, and then there is a fight for it inside our subtle body. And there are man, buddhi, and there are so many other individual conscious units inside our subtle body who are all fighting for that. And including, the Rahu and Ketu, those two wicked Gandharvas who are there to just bind us, like ropes. They tie us down in this body. So they are there for that too. So what happens when that is supplied, during that Amrit Muhurt, what you would call Kundalini, which is basically our Atman. I use Jagdamba, our mother. She is literally, very active. She moves all the way, even when you are sleeping. When say we are sleeping, I am sleeping, our Buddhiman and all the other individual conscious units are sleeping, but mother is not sleeping. So she makes her way all the way to Sahasrar. She gets her daily drink, and then she basically goes back to just be inactive. And most people don't realize it because, our man and buddhi, we are all sleeping at that time. But what happens if you are a very spiritually advanced person, right? At that time, you naturally wake up, because at that time there is very little impurity in your system to create that cover of darkness again, so that you stay asleep. So you will see very advanced people, they naturally wake up like 2:30 or 3 a.m. Naturally, like Sri Ramakrishna didn't have to have a wake-up clock, right? No alarm needed. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to reverse engineer it. We don't want to lose that Amrit, that Bindu that we receive every day. So we need that to make progress in our spiritual life and also in our worldly life. So that's why it's very important to get at that early. You see many cults like ISKCON and pretty much every spiritual cult, they make up this rule. They're very strict about it, is getting up early, like really early. And they organize events like Mangalarti and other meditation, other events, so that that is probably a very good thing that they do. That's really, really, really important. And I really monitor it on daily basis. I know that if I'm sleeping, it's rare that I really sleep in after sunrise. But let's say if I'm getting up, let's say an hour before sunrise for a few days in a row, I need to do something. So what I do is, every day when I open my computer, first thing I do is I note down my wake up time, on a spreadsheet, Excel sheet. And then I kind of keep an eye on it, on a trend, like, okay, how is it going? So let's say if I'm getting up 2 hours before sunrise, 2.5 hours in a row, then I know I'm doing pretty well and I feel pretty good too. But then I see, let's say if there is I have to travel, or if we are doing some work, we get really tired, then it's natural to not be able to wake up properly at the right time. But if everything is normal and still I'm kind of sleeping more than normal, then I need to kind of dial up my spiritual practice. That's the solution. So that was the wake up time, and also amount of sleep. I mean, again, if we are not super tired, not doing something extraordinary, we should not be sleeping too much. So if I'm sleeping too much, then I know that it's not good. That means I need to dial up my spiritual practice. Okay, second was talking. Yeah, I think like too much talk. I just don't like to talk too much, because generally, what is there to talk about? There's really not that much to talk about. Seriously, it's kind of, it might sound a bit brutal and also like insensitive, but there's really not that much to talk about. I mean, if we really look at our life very objectively, and here I'm applying my buddhi, like intellect, in a very brutal way. There is really not that much to talk about. If you see like what we talk about, most of the time we are talking about events which are either in the past or going to happen in the future, or events are so distant from us where we have no impact in terms of real direct impact. So literally, in terms of talking, we are just wasting our prana, wasting our that bindu amrit, and it's also a reflection of a distracted mind. And most of the time, people do talk to each other a lot. It's kind of considered a very social practice that, yeah, I need to talk to that person need to, if you talk to someone, people feel appreciated. They somehow feel that you value them. But these are just bogus ideas. Sorry. Because what's happening is, people are just wasting each other's time. And it's okay. I used to talk to my friends for long time, over phone or in general. But when we get to a stage in life, or when we become serious about spiritual life, talking too much is not healthy, because one, it distracts our mind. Second, it is just burning that bindu, that amrit, that ambrosia, which is basically wasting our battery life, that is needed to make spiritual progress. I tell you, making spiritual progress is a lot of work, and one needs a lot of energy. Every ounce of energy one can muster is needed to make spiritual progress. Okay, the third was, letting my mind run. I really monitor it, right? So the goal is to be active, but stay focused on what I'm doing, and not let my mind run on its own from here to there. So as an example, let's say if I'm doing gardening, or if I'm driving my kid to school, at that time I don't want to be thinking about what's happening in the economy, or what happened in election, what's going to happen, which candidate is going to win. It's so basically, at any given task what I'm doing, I need to be focused on that. And if I keep doing it, then day really rolls very nicely. So I finish one task and then move to the next task, and then the next task. Then I realize, like after 7-8 hours, yes, I've done 7-8 things. But sometimes what happens is, let's say we are doing something, so two things happen. One is the other things are on our mind and keeps bothering. And second is, there is a pull from that task to another task. and that creates a lot of disturbance in mind. So for example, let's say, I'm scrolling through Google News or Wall Street Journal, and I find this one article which I find very interesting, and I want to read that article. And I click on that article, and it opens in the next tab. But in the meantime, I look at another article, and I find that one interesting too. So I forget the first one and go to read the next one. So what's happening is the first one was a result of my buddhi, my intellect, that okay, yeah, I find this interesting, I'm going to read it. But the second one was a result of my mind, my man, because man overtook buddhi and said, no, this one is interesting too, and the reason is not very clear. And then we get pulled into the second article, and then it leads to another article. So then it's kind of a snowball effect. I don't like that. So I watch it. Sometimes it happens. That's a big event in the world, right? Something happened. You see the news, and then it leads to one article after another. You become curious. Okay, I need to figure more out about it. And then you become more curious, and then for a day or two, you realize after 2-3 days that really it was not that big of a deal. Life just went on, and I unnecessarily wasted so much time and energy. So again, I monitor that. That is just an example of what I mean by not letting mind wander. At the same time, not letting it be inactive. Meditation, people say meditation is inactivity of mind. That is not right. Meditation is intense activity of mind. You need intense, it's hard to say it. It's highly intense to, very high degree of focus. Either, whichever kind of meditation we are doing. So it's a lot of work, very high intensity work. Meditation is a lot of work. And if we don't control our mind all the time, then it's very difficult to control it at the time of meditation. It's a 24/7 project. Okay, fourth is, being nice to people in general in our interaction. Just verbal interaction, and not snapping, not saying things in a way that will hurt people. And I monitor that because, when I am not being nice to people, just polite. Nice means just being a normal person, not being snappy or disrespectful, not making them feel unnecessarily, insulted. So if I do that, that's a reflection of status of my inner mindset, my subtle body. So what happens is all of us has something called Pap Purush. Pap Purush is a part of our personality. It is an individual conscious unit in our subtle body, which at some point, if we do intense spiritual practice, could stay there dormant, very, very weak. But if we are not careful, it becomes very powerful. It takes over. And when that Pap Purush takes over, that makes us angry, makes a strong attachment to everything, especially to our ideas, and it makes us very reactive, dislike people, insult people. So that's a way to monitor, for me, how strong that Pap Purush is inside my system. And so that's why, I monitor that. That's a way to monitor, what's the strength of that Pap Purush. We can't eliminate it completely. The body will not last. Sri Ramakrishna tells us that you do need a trace of that Pap Purush, that avidya maya. But the goal is not to let it become very strong. So if I'm noticing myself that, if I'm being snappy with people too many times, I need to retreat. I need to step back and kind of calm down, and for a few days I need to slow down, and I need to just try to cleanse myself, in my mind, and then need to get back to a state where I'm again naturally nice, polite to people. Basically what happens is, when we are snappy, it's a manifestation of something some kind of a deep attachment, or something that we really want. It could be just an idea, right? It could be, I just want that shoe stand to be nice and tidy. I don't want shoes to be all over on the floor. It could be a simple idea like that, right? But it's our preference that makes us snappy, and that preference is fine. That's how world runs. But if we are going to make progress in spiritual life, we have to move beyond those preferences. And I monitor that, my behavior, to see how strong I am in my mind in terms of my preferences. And it's good to, in spiritual life, to progress, it's good to we can't get rid of preferences, but make them weak. Hoy vahi jo Ram rachi rakha. When we get to that stage, then we become really happy. And the fifth was monitoring my comment on internet. Yeah, that is something that I monitor. I rarely make comments now on internet, because when we make a comment, it's basically our opinion, right? We are voicing an opinion, and what it means is it's something that we really care for a lot, right? That is forcing us to make a comment. Whether we like something a lot, so we agree with someone, or we dislike something so much that we disagree with them. So we are voicing an opinion. And the purpose of a spiritual life is to move beyond opinion. Opinion comes from ego, that yes, this is my opinion and this is right, and I'm going to say that. And then it leads to other people reacting to us, and then it leads to again more comments. So naturally I have seen that it leads to creation of unpeaceful situation. It's not helpful at all. But at the same time, sometimes I do make comments where I feel maybe it's needed. But I don't want to, it's very rare. And I don't want to do it impulsively. I don't want to let it just get out of hand. So I monitor that also very carefully. That is a reflection of how much do I really care about some stand, right? Someone taking, whether you are Republican or Democrat, whether you are pro environment or not pro environment. Like, these are things that are never going to go away, right? I'm going to die, and even after 100 years, these things will still be a very important topic, right? So if one is focused on a spiritual life, one has to kind of grow up and kind of think of them that, yeah, they're important, but they're not that important. If one is really pulled into those debates, then that's deadly. That's deadly for spiritual life. And what's the goal of a spiritual life? In the end, the goal of a spiritual life is to be happy, to be peaceful, to be joyful, and to roll through day, and if we roll through every day, then roll through life, in that, happy, peaceful, yet very productive, state. That's the goal of spiritual life. That's the goal of spiritual life. All right, so I'll just end it here, and we'll talk again. I hope you are all doing well. All right, so take care. I'll end with this. This is something that I like. Let's try. Ram Ram Jai Raja Ram, Ram Ram Jai Sita Ram, Ram Ram Jai Raja Ram, Ram Ram Jai Sita Ram. Krishna Krishna Vrindavan Dham, Krishna Krishna Vrindavan Dham, Krishna Krishna Jai Radhe Shyam, Krishna Krishna Vrindavan Dham, Krishna Krishna Jai Radhe Shyam. Ram Krishna Jai Sita Ram, Ram Krishna Jai Radhe Shyam, Ram Krishna Jai Sita Ram, Ram Krishna Jai Radhe Shyam. All right, so take care. We'll talk again. All right then. Bye. Let's see.